Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us for today's exciting webinar, The Role of AI in Pharma Innovation. My name is Arvind Kannan. I'll be your host for today's session. Joining me are Nitin Naveen, who's VP Innovation Strategy at AI Corspot. Along with us, I have Archana Nair and Naveen Kumar, who will be assisting in this webinar to keep our discussion lively. In this webinar, we'll explore how AI is transforming pharma by enhancing market access, clinical development, and regulatory compliance. The industry expert will discuss AI-driven decision-making, automation, and key challenges in adoption. We will also cover the best practices, innovative solutions, and the future of AI in pharma, including its impact of commercialization and healthcare innovation. Before we dive in, let me provide you a brief overview of AI Corspot. We are on the mission for more than 4 years ago, and our aim is to be #1 AI-driven community all over the world. Our focus is to provide deep dive into the sectors wherever the technology plays a crucial role. Every month, we explore a different theme, bringing together like-minded people like yourself to share knowledge and drive growth. We aspire to be a one-stop shop for Industry 4.0 technologies, and will continue to do industry-packed webinars and hybrid events. The knowledge repository will be made from the reliable data through industry thought leaders and subject matter experts. We will enrich the digital content through videos, blog, podcasts, newsletter to shed the light on ever-evolving industry. To stay updated on upcoming webinars and resources, please visit our website, aicorspot.io, and follow us on social media handles, which will keep you all updated on what we propose to offer in coming months. Now, let me introduce our panel speakers for today. Pramod Rao, who's Associate Director, Data Insights and Analytics at Alexion. And the second speaker, we have Tai Yang, who's the Senior Director, Product Management and Strategy at Simpera. And today's session will be moderated by Anthony Di Pietro, who is the Director at InfoVision. A quick disclaimer I would like to put before we start. A view shared by the speakers are the personal one, and it's not related to the organization which they represent. Now I'll hand it over the stage to Anthony to drive this panel discussion. Over to you, Anthony.
Great. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Pramod, for joining and taking some time out of your day to join us. So I guess without further ado, we can kick things off. Ty, good morning. We'll start with you. One of the things I wanted to start with is if you can, elaborate on what are some of the key challenges pharmaceutical companies face when integrating AI technologies into their existing drug discovery pipelines, and how they can overcome these obstacles.
Yeah, so first of all, welcome everyone. As mentioned before, I'm the Senior Director of Product Management at Formulary Decisions at Cencora, and our primary focus is in market access specifically. So everything I'm going to talk to you about today is really how we're integrating AI to help with some of those market access challenges that we see in the healthcare industry. So to answer your question, one of the main challenges that we've seen with integrating AI into our product that we've had to overcome is really around corporate IT regulations. So even switching an AI feature within existing IT approved platforms that we're utilizing has increased scrutiny from our internal leadership team, really when you think about data privacy and security from that standpoint. And as a result, we have to provide detailed plans, submit a lot of information through our AI governance teams for review. And if anyone here today works for a big company, you know that the review process and governance can take months. And so this has really significantly slowed down our development timelines. But what we found is that if we have strong collaboration with our IT counterparts from the very beginning of the product development cycle, so we're developing a digital product. So when we think of from ideation to the actual launch or the release of the product, if we incorporate the IT leadership early on, it's helped us navigate these challenges so that we avoid challenges that negatively will affect our timelines. I also would say that another challenge that we face is integration with our existing IT infrastructure. That has been an issue. So when we think about AI and incorporating it, we need that seamless integration into our legacy systems in order for us to leverage the full potential of AI. And we ran into an issue with Power BI recently when we were trying to integrate AI. Although BI has recently released several turnkey AI integrations into its platform, it still doesn't support live connections. So our team actually needed to outsource additional developers to help with that initiative. And we learned from them that it's actually time consuming for them to be able to vectorize, organize, and label our data to prepare for that AI integration. So we actually needed to build even more development timeline before we, more development time into our timelines before we could even leverage AI. If I could for a moment speak about our users. So we actually have a challenge with our users in building trust around the AI curated content. So we've done some market research, and we know that our healthcare decision makers, or we can also call them payers, need confidence in the product information that we're providing and that information that AI is providing. And I don't think that that confidence is quite there yet. In a recent initiative that we had to address issues with inaccurate data in our content creation. We uncovered that our AI model had limitations around citing sources correctly and thoroughly, retrieving relevant information, and then providing grounded conclusions that sounded clinical instead of markety, if you will, like marketing speak. So we actually had to go through and train the model very intensively. And we actually implemented thorough testing through very tight human AI collaboration with subject matter experts that are clinical pharmacists. And through that careful governance, we were able to identify ways in order to make sure that the humans are checking what the AI is doing, and then the product that we're putting out is beneficial for our healthcare decision makers.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for elaborating on that. I guess moving to our next question, Ty, in the context of driving AI drug discovery, how important is the data quality and management, and what best practices should companies adopt to ensure reliable outcomes? And I know you kind of just spoke on it about how important the data is from a sanitation standpoint, but could you elaborate on that a little bit?
You know, we are not so much, or my team isn't so much involved with drug discovery and the data. And so I'm not sure I'll be able to fully speak to those best practices. Right now, we're really focusing more on the content creation aspect of AI. And from a data standpoint, it's more about leveraging the data that we're pulling into the platform and making it easier for our subscribers to pull out those insights. And so having AI do sentiment analysis on our data. So the data perspective of this, I don't think there are any best practices that I can share at this point in time, but maybe one of our other panelists could.
Well, it's a great segue to ask Pramod. Is that something that you can elaborate on? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me okay now?
There you go.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hello, everyone. I'm pretty excited to be here. As Arvind mentioned, I'm with Alexion, which is AstraZeneca's rare disease business unit, and I'm leading the enterprise-wide initiative to embed AI across our entire business, across the entire pharma value chain. We are building out this capability in collaboration across functions, along with our tech partners and value creation teams. Okay. Now, I can touch on clean data, like document management, Anthony, if that was the question.
Yeah, I can repeat it if you'd like.
Yeah, if you can, yeah.
Sure. So in the context of AI-driven drug discovery, how important is the data quality and management including best practices, should companies adopt to ensure reliable outcomes?
I won't be able to speak to drug discovery. I can talk about clinical development or clinical operations, right? I think AI has an important role. I mean, if you think about R&D, for example, right? I mean, today we spend a ton of time through clinical trials. We have about 3 to 4 million data points, which is at least 3 to 4 times compared to the amount of data that we used to collect about a decade ago, for example, right? So more data meaning more documentation. And we've all seen, like, in our healthcare professionals spend a chunk of time documenting data, right? Whether it's coming from drug discovery or clinical trials or some of the clinical development activities. And AI has a critical role. So when you're thinking about lots of data, this underscores, the volume of data created and the documentation, all of these underscore a critical need for advanced data management and automation. Okay? So where could AI help? In multiple ways, right? It is, when I say AI, I talk about NLP, which is natural language processing, machine learning model, and of course, Gen AI. We can use that to automate the creation. We can to review the documents and version control, which is critical, through the course of R&D, whether it's drug discovery, drug development, or clean dev and clean ops, right? And as most of you might know, on an average during clinical trial, we create about 40 to 80 different documents, right? Safety management documents, then data management documents, regulatory documents, right? Things of that nature. If you look at the breadth of documents, I think AI can extract data from disparate sources, right? Auto-populate templates and flag inconsistencies. All of these can lead to reduction in human error, which is critical, through R&D, right? And especially in clinical trials, I think identifying critical data like IE criteria, right? Endpoints, adverse events, and populating databases automatically, for example, right? All of these could be easily done with AI today, right? Which leads to less manual data entry errors, right? And also in R&D, I think, I jump back to clean dev and clean op function, generating summaries and reports, right? There are a lot of documents that need to be summarized, either for our regulatory authorities or for our stakeholders. I think AI can help by creating concise summary of complex documents, thereby accelerating the review process as well as facilitating knowledge sharing, right? So I would say, AI in all, it is, there's a perception that, yes, it is productivity play. It's a time saver, no doubt, right? But me sitting in pharma, for us, it is about improving data quality. It's about reducing risk and also ultimately accelerating the delivery of therapies to our patients.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So taking it, I guess, one step further and the importance of AI, and this would be for both of our panelists. Do you think that AI can contribute to a more sustainable practice within pharmaceutical research and development? And if you think so, can you elaborate on that?
So I guess I can jump in. I can't speak to pharmaceutical research and development. Would you like for me to maybe talk about AI from a market access standpoint and
Absolutely.
how we're addressing some of the issues?
Sure.
Okay. So for market access specifically, I think AI is transforming this space by enabling predictive analytics to anticipate patient needs, optimize our pricing strategies, and streamline the reimbursement process. And, the reimbursement process has been a pain point for our industry and still is a pain point for our industry. And so what we're looking at, and I think Pramod sort of alluded to this, we're looking at reducing administration burden, human error, which have been our pain points. So I think one of the primary advantages AI brings to market access is its ability to enhance data analysis and insights. And by automating this data collection, leveraging machine learning, AI can uncover patterns very quickly within big data sets that takes humans much longer to do. They can look deeper into insights around our payer or our healthcare decision maker behavior. They can look at treatment costs and then all of the potential market barriers. So for instance, the AI's predictive analytic capabilities allow pharmaceutical companies to simulate various market scenarios, helping with the development of the pricing, launch strategies, and their value propositions, and making sure that those are tailored to specific markets. But for market access, I don't think that the benefits really stop there, because AI can streamline the regulatory navigation and facilitate the development of value-based pricing models by analyzing real-world data to determine a drug's true value proposition based on clinical and economic data that it pulls in from various sources. It can also potentially predict reimbursement likelihood from different payers, which could aid in targeted strategy development for pharmaceutical companies. And then it can identify patient populations that are most likely to benefit from therapies, which would enable more targeted outreach and educational campaigns. And one thing that our company also does is patient support programs. That's a big part of our business. And so AI is changing how we are delivering our patient support programs, because with that more personalized approach, we can improve adherence and enhance health outcomes overall.
So one thing, and I'm going to deviate just slightly here, just based off of some of the conversations that I've been in, where with current technology today, as technology advances and continues to expand within companies, whether it's on the insurance side, provider side, or companies that kind of fall in the middle. One of the things that's coming up that is being discussed more and more are the disparities that some people, for insurance companies, some of their members go through, or people that don't have insurance. They don't have the means to be on some of the best technology, whether it's around diabetes, medication, whatever it may be. How do you think having an AI component help fix or get us in the direction to addressing those concerns and helping people that have disparities or have a lesser means of getting access to medications, healthcare, providers, whatever it may be?
Yeah, let me pick that up. And I think there are several aspects, for this. If you run through the entire pharma value chain, I just want to focus in on perhaps how plain language summary, right? Which is, how do you bring in complex scientific data, right? Complex scientific information closer to in a way that our patients and caregivers can easily understand, as well as our payers, health authorities, governmental institutions, and whatnot. So if you step back and look at the metrics, I think at least in US, only about, I'd say like 10 or 12% of adults have proficient health literacy, right? But a good 95% of our clinical trials, even now in US, are published in technical jargon in a way that our patients cannot understand, right? So I think we got to close the gap, because one way to close the gap is to create something called a plain language summary, PLS, which is a way to bridge the gap between scientific research and general public by providing a concise and understandable summary of complex scientific publications, right? And why is this important? Why does this matter, right? If you think about, there are the studies that have shown up to 80% of our patients are more likely to participate in clinical trials if they understand the purpose and benefits of of enrolling in a clinical trial, for example, right? So the question is, how do you democratize access to clinical data, right? I mean, PLS is one way, right? I mean, across scientific communications. Again, we can go through other value chain aspects as well, but from a technology standpoint, right? Gen AI has a critical role, right? I mean, a pivotal role in automating the creation of PLS, right? If you go back like 2-3 years ago, like, we used to spend, all the pharma companies used to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars, like, perhaps with their vendors to create plain language summary for their abstract, for their posters, for their manuscripts. But now, like, you can use Gen AI to cut down the time and cost by 50-60%, right? It's not perfect, but I think it can create a good draft. So we can use AI models to look at the clinical data, to identify key findings, to generate summaries, and we can tailor to different literacy level. I mean, most of the plain language summary are written at middle school level or high school level in a way that anyone can easily patients and caregivers can easily understand. So AI can do that fairly easily. So what does this do, right? I mean, if this not only enhances transparency, right? I mean, that is important, like, for pharma companies to build trust with patients, but AI can also help us align with regulatory guidelines, like, for example, EU CTR, the clinical trials regulations and whatnot, which is required, like, for all the clinical trials. So what I would say is, I mean, I just picked PLS as an example. That is one way to foster more patient-centric research, if you will, right? Where we can make science accessible to all of our audiences.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. And for everybody on the call, is there any questions, comments? Would anybody like to ask the panelists anything?
There is a question, Johnny.
Yep, there's a question by Richard. So how is AI transforming traditional pharma R&D, and do you see a future where AI-driven methods surpass conventional lab research entirely?
I can start. So R&D, right? I mean, if you look at R&D, it's a broad function, right? I mean, even when you pick clinical development, there are multiple aspects for clinical development, right? There is preclinical research, there is clinical trials, there is regulatory submission, which is a big part, like, of any clean dev process. Then there is post-marketing surveillance, there's data analysis and reporting. So there's lots of functions within clinical development. AI has an active role across all of these, right? I think specifically, I would say like automation, right? I mean, I think there is a need, like, for us to look at. I mean, I previously mentioned about the volume and the amount of documentation that is generated through the course of clinical dev. Automation is a key, right? I mean, I think that's where you start, right? I mean, to basically get the output to 70-80% there. And then you bring in our scientists, our biostatisticians, and our researchers to review the data and fill in the gaps for the remaining 20%, right? I think all of these, like, if you think, I mean, just picking one area of effective document management, right, which is what, like, our stakeholders ask of us, that will help us reducing delays, and more importantly, like, especially in R&D, like, ensuring compliance, and also accelerating time to market, like, for life-saving therapies. Will it surpass the conventional lab research? We haven't seen that yet, at least, like, at least in our firm. I think the AI can do the job really, really well, but I think there's always a human element, right? I mean, there is scientific nuance and context that has to be added by the researcher and our medical team for us to be able to, like, get to that 100%. So could it get there in the next couple of years? Yes, but not today.
Yeah, I think that the as we move on, and AI, becomes more and more relevant within healthcare, within life sciences, I think those practices will start to pick up and generate more momentum as we move forward. So we
Yeah.
have another question. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, like, I mean, it's important for us to understand that the true power of AI lies in its ability to augment human expertise, not replace it, right? I think now AI can, I mean, it can analyze it. I mean, there's lots of analytical capabilities that AI provides. If you combine that with human empathy and creativity, especially in pharma sector, we can create solutions that are innovative and, more importantly, ethical, right? So very, very important. So that's one. And I also want to point out, it is our focus must always remain towards our patients. Patient centricity should be the theme, like, at least for pharma. And we can use AI to sort of drive, shrink time to market for diagnosis, or drive, like, therapies faster and safer, but it has to also truly meet the needs of diverse population.
Yeah, no, I will second that. And I think too, bringing up, a population health, I think taking AI and incorporating it into some population health within chronic disease also has a big play. But that might be a different conversation. So we have another question by Eric White. AI models are increasingly used to predict drug efficiency and toxicity in early development. How accurate are these predictions, and what challenges or limitations still need to be addressed?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to comment on this. I mean, it is, are we able to analyze the effectiveness of a drug, either whether it's the data coming in, like, from our HCOs or through adverse event monitoring and whatnot? Yeah, we gather all the data, right? We can certainly analyze images, the X-ray images and whatnot. However, like, I think for us to be able to get to a point wherein we can say, like, well, this person has this specific rare disease, for example, right? We still have ways to go, right? It can help us, like, generate some data points and insights, but I think for us, again, human always has to be in the loop, right? And more importantly, given that I sit in rare disease, see, rare disease is very different compared to cancer or compared to biopharma, right? I mean, if you look at, we go to clinical trials, we spend $15 million, but then we come out with 62 patients, right? I mean, the same thing for breast cancer, for example, you would have like thousands of patients, meaning the data points for us is very less. However, like, we can also train AI models with a lot of our historical data to be able to get to a point where we can analyze some of the data points coming in, like, from the field to make decisions. But we are not there yet.
Another question by Dorothy Palmer. AI is automating many aspects of drug discovery. Do you see it as a threat to traditional pharma jobs, or will it create more opportunities? This potentially could fall under you. I don't know.
One of the interesting. Go ahead, Pramod.
Go ahead.
Sorry, my connection might be lagging, so let me know if my voice isn't coming through. In pharmaceutical commercialization, we have the field teams, right? We have pharmaceutical reps that go out and talk to physicians, and we have medical reps that go out and talk to our payers. And one of the big questions that the team's always asking, or the fear, is that AI is going to replace their jobs. I think, as Pramod mentioned earlier, that AI is augmenting what we do. It's not going to replace what we do. There's still that human connection. There's still that creativity needed by us in order to keep the business moving. And so we're trying to train these sales team members on how they can leverage AI to make their work easier so that they can focus on those things that AI can't do well now. Like I said, that creative thinking, and then building those personal relations.
Pramod, did you want to comment or add to that?
I fully agree.
Okay. So one of the, somebody say something? Next question, how can AI-driven analytics improve testing and personalization in pharmaceutical marketing campaigns? I think there's a, AI would have a big, I don't want to say big, but, from a marketing standpoint and how a drug is marketed to the public or for clinical trials, do you think that will have a impact? And if so, how do you think it would impact that?
I'll scratch the surface. Oh, go ahead. You go first, Pramod.
Go ahead. I mean, I should put myself on mute.
No, you can go first. I'm just going to make a brief comment. So I missed the first part of your question because of the connection issues. However, with marketing campaigns, the way that we're using AI today is really around creating the content. I know that a lot of people are using it also to do the baseline strategy. You can put in some information into Gen AI and it can help you with your strategy development. It can even put together pricing and a promotional plan. But for us, it's about developing our key content that's going to go into our newsletters and our email blasts, and having taking that burden off of the team and leveraging Gen AI in that way for marketing campaigns. The other way that we're starting to utilize it is in our market research efforts with marketing. So when we get a large data set and information back from the market research, we are using it to help us pull out the insights from the market research data so that we can put together campaigns.
Wonderful. So both of you kind of talked about it from the previous question, and Ty, you just kind of talked about it a little bit, but I don't want to say from a marketing standpoint, but do you think AI can help identify the correct population, maybe even down to, the specific demographics of who you want to target for a clinical trial?
Perhaps, right? I want to tie this back to our commercial strategy, right? I think one way, so we are experimenting with chatbots, right? I mean, I think we get a lot of routine patient inquiries, or even customer inquiries or payer inquiries, right? And these are all the same questions that is being asked repeatedly over time and time again. So we have chatbots, right? And I think in pharma, and everybody's talking about precision medicine, right? Or personalized medicine, being, so we are also thinking about how chatbots could transform, right? I mean, in terms of how we engage with HCPs, payers, patients, and whatnot to drive our commercial success, right? Now, could we target, someone specific? It is, so for us, for rare disease, and I think our key touch points is with HCOs and HCPs, right? So if we are able to educate our HCPs, right, they in turn can drive better communication with their patients. Now, how do we do that? I think one way is if we have a chatbot is just one example, like using Gen AI technology. We can provide instant access around our therapy, around our drug information. And HCPs normally want to know, like, hey, what is, show me the clinical trial data results for Koselugo, for example, right? Prescribing guidelines, right? All of this will help them make informed decision making. Okay, number one. And for patients, I think we also, any pharma, like, we have a patient services organization, like, who deals with patients and one-on-one with providing one-on-one support. And right now, like, it's a lot of time and a lot of effort, right? But if you put a chatbot, I think, that can offer personalized support, right? It about from medication reminders to side effects management, adverse event management. All of these would improve adherence and treatment for our patients. One last thing I think is what we are observing, through the course of what we are learning through this chatbot interaction is you can do sentiment analysis, right? Which is being able to analyze the tone and context. Chatbots can identify HCPs who are more likely to prescribe a drug to a patient, right? Or a patient who might need additional support, like, for targeted follow-ups, if you will, right? So there are, a ton of like opportunities, like, a chatbot is just one example, right? At the end of the day, being able to drive precision or personalized medicine is something is every pharma's goal, right? But we are trying to get there one step at a time, and chatbot is where we have started.
Great. So when talking about different strategies and how to utilize AI, good starting points, where do you think, and this is for both Ty and Pramod, what do you think the key challenges are in implementing a AI driven automation tool?
You want to go first, Ty, or?
Yeah, I think in one of my previous responses, I talked a lot about the key challenges that we are facing with implementing an AI tool. I guess some things to consider, best practices. When we are integrating AI, I think our success hinges on the right purpose, the right people, and the right processes. And if I'm going to think about this a little bit more broadly. So first and foremost, what I always tell our team is that we need to think about addressing real problems and real pain points before we just put out an AI solution or say AI is the solution that we need for a feature in our product, because not every need or challenge we come across needs AI. So in the beginning, I think when we were talking with our internal stakeholders, AI was a new shiny object. And so people were suggesting that all of our new features incorporate some sort of AI component in our product roadmap. And that wasn't necessarily the case, because AI is not the answer, but we should engage the right people, so internal and external stakeholders early on in the process when we're thinking through solutions to solve problems, to make sure that we're meeting their needs and we focus on scalable, adaptable solutions that can evolve over time. And I think also when we think about the right people, we need to educate our internal stakeholders on AI's possibilities and its limitations so that we can foster realistic expectations, especially like I mentioned before, when we talk about implementation timelines. Regarding processes, I mentioned the right processes. I actually wish that I had started networking with people within our organization sooner. We're part of a really big organization, and there were people in other departments that already knew about some of the challenges of integrating our product with AI. And they actually had some best practices for how we could get our IT approvals faster through that governance team. That would have helped me a lot along the way. And I think Pramod might have mentioned this earlier around processes. Once we're implementing an AI solution, it's that human AI collaboration on all Gen AI generated content that's really going to help us in successful implementation ultimately.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Ty. I mean, just to add on to what I said, um, depending on the function, it is one of the challenge we have is can AI accurately interpret complex scientific data, right? I think contextual understanding becomes very important, right? There's also how do we avoid plagiarism, right? I mean, it's if you continue to use AI, we need to ensure that any content that is generated, it does not infringe on existing copyrights. Okay, so meaning like, this also goes back to one of the earlier questions that you asked, Anthony, which is training our models on ethically sourced data becomes very, very important, right? I mean, to avoid plagiarism. That's one. It's not 100% foolproof, but I think it'll get there. Another business challenge is around maintaining scientific accuracy, right? I mean, we have to truly represent the data, whether you're an R&D or commercial or manufacturing, it has to reflect the underlying data, right? Meaning that we need a rigorous validation process, and more importantly, as Ty said, like, the human oversight, right? That's all very important. So from a technical standpoint, I think a lot of like use cases, or I mean, I touched on chatbots earlier, right? Which is a lot of companies are embarking on chatbots now because it's a low-hanging fruit, perhaps. It's all text-based, which is fantastic, right? I mean, which is great. However, like, and I think there is a huge opportunity for us to tap into what I call as multi-model AI, integrate text with your voice, with images, like, perhaps with videos as well, right, as an input to provide seamless context-aware interactions, right? It is at the end of the day, I think, when you're putting a chatbot to your HCPs or patients, it is about providing a good user experience, right, in a way that generates value for them, and also more importantly generates insights, like, for us as well, right?
Wonderful. So that brings me to my next question is, how do you think pharma companies can validate and benchmark predictive models to ensure reliability?
I think that one might be out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, there is this is a tough one because at the end of the day, I think testing, I mean, I would say when you run through a lot of, I mean, we have teams coming and asking us like, look, I mean, which model should we use, like, for this specific use case, right? Whether should we go with OpenAI or Google or open source and whatnot. We don't know the answer, right? Unless and until, like, you run a use case through testing, right? You won't be able to figure out, like, in which model can provide an accurate and reliable answer, right? And more importantly, I think it is, when you think about an AI project, it is important for business, and it's a cross-functional team, if you will, to collaborate closely with IT, right? To validate the output on a continual basis, feed the learning back to the model, fine-tune the model, like, as required, right? For us to be able to get an output that that is expected. So having said that, I think there are also some healthcare specific, healthcare life sciences specific models by companies like Google that we tap into, which can alleviate some of the extra work. Like, it has lexicon built in, it has taxonomy built in, right? So we can use those to interpret, like, it can translate some of the acronyms or jargons, if you will, to a language that our researchers can easily understand. So I would say, like, probably more testing and review by our business teams is the way to ensure that we are getting reliable output.
Answer. Great. So from a timing standpoint, I think we have about 10, 15 minutes left, and I know we wanted to open up to a Q&A session. So from the attendees, is there any questions that you would like to ask our panelists?
I think we have covered the questions, Johnny, whatever they
Yep.
posted. Maybe we can continue. Maybe if there is anything comes up, maybe we can take it.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, we've kind of talked about the best support and functionality from a collaboration standpoint with AI. Do you think knowledge transfers can be facilitated between AI experts and traditional scientists? And I ask that because I think we have, there's still a strong component of that traditional lab work that's being done with your traditional scientific evidence, experimental things that are happening in the back. But do you think that modern AI components can coincide with that traditional scientific work that is still being done?
I'll answer this in a bit differently, Anthony. So the question is always, what are the ideal candidates for AI or Gen AI, right? If a lab assistant were to come back and ask me, my response would be like, hey, can you teach an intern to do this task at the same quality and caliber that it would be worth it, right? If the answer is yes, then I think then we can take the AI route, right? That's one way to look at it, right? And second is, do you perform this task regularly? Like, I mean, couple times a week, couple times a month, that it is worth automating it, right? And all, I mean, in every form of function, like, there are tasks, whether it is creating documents or analyzing data or generating insights, like, I mean, whether it's an MSL function, right? I mean, there's a lot of repeated work, right? I mean, people spend time. I think if the goal is if it's worth automating it, then you can take the AI route, okay? And last but not the least, is it text heavy, right? I mean, think about, like, how 2-3 years ago, I think, I mean, we had our researchers going back and reading through PubMeds, like scientific publications, right? I mean, these takes, like, several, like 1, 2, 3 days to read a publication and truly interpret and understand the results. So if it's text heavy, then could you, like, use AI to generate insights and use it? Absolutely, right? So these are, I think, I mean, I would say the goal is not to use AI, rather, like, use AI to solve real world problems. Okay. And this could be applied whether you are a scientist, whether you are a researcher, whether you are in manufacturing, right? I mean, whether you are in marketing, sales, driving commercial strategies, it could be applied across all the functions.
So I guess in a perfect world, if everything is moving in the right direction, everything is going the way we want it to. Ty, I'll start with you. How do you think AI would make your job and functions better?
Yeah, so one of the main things is, like I said, the labor intensive work that PMs have to do, as far as writing content, gathering information, those would be the two main things: writing content and gathering and synthesizing information. So if Gen AI, to help a product management role, could help us write content the way that we write it, so like more personalized, and if it could help the team put together a lot of information and then synthesize that from various different sources like PowerPoints, Excels, and Word documents, that would make our role a lot better when leveraging AI specifically for our administrative tasks.
You kind of brought up a good point. The way, as you said, the way we write it as humans, the way we write. A family, my wife's cousin who's in college, one of the biggest issues that they have is that his last semester, about I think it was 6 people were expelled from the college because of utilizing Chat GPT. And what I didn't realize is that when Chat GPT, comes out with a response to whatever it is you're asking for, that it's an algorithm based response. It doesn't have that human flow to it. Does that make sense? Or that human element? And it's just fascinating that where ChatGPT was very, very big, and now the way it produces writings and publishes things is pretty fascinating. But yes, to your point, it's having that human touch, I'll say, included in the writings. Pramod, I'll turn it over to you. If in a perfect world everything was great, the technology was perfect, how do you think AI, and how would you want AI to make your job that much better?
Yeah. I would say, it's if we are able to democratize access to AI across our functions, I think researchers, can do their job, right? Sifting through scientific publications, right? And create things like plain language summary, for example, right? Or abstracts or manuscripts fairly easily, right? If marketing could analyze all the data coming in from the field, right? Through website, through apps, through campaigns and whatnot, through conferences, through symposia, right? They should be able to bring all this data and generate insights and knowledge for them to refine their marketing and sales strategies, right? And then, same thing could be applied for other functions as well. But for our developers, I think, it is right now, I think our developers are a lot more productive compared to where we were like 2, 3, 4 years ago, because of the way, all of these models can generate code, can debug code, right? So our development process has dramatically shrunk, right? At least by 20, 30%. If not, that may not seem much, but I think it is significant from a time and cost perspective, right? And think about all the commercial launches. We are in pharma, we are always thinking through timeline and commercial launches, right? And commercial launches take several months. Putting a plan together, takes like several weeks, right? Because it's a truly a cross-functional team, and everyone's got to agree on what their scope of work is. And some of those, they don't have to necessarily, in ideal world, I wouldn't want our business to come to IT and basically say, well, we have this problem or opportunity. Can you help us do something with it, right? Rather, if we are able to democratize access, they should be able to drag and drop, if you will, all of their data sources and drive whatever it's needed for them, whether it's a project schedule or insights or strategy and whatnot.
Well, we have one last question that came in by Sandeep, and that is, what are the ethical implications of using AI in drug development, particularly concerning data privacy and patient consent? Good question.
Yeah, let me touch on it maybe in 1 minute. I think patient consent is extremely important, and that's why we have like informed consent form, like during our clinical trial. We also it's not just one time, right? I mean, you also have to patients have to reconsent, like if we are using their data for any medical research purposes, right? Privacy, I mean, I think it's equally important, right? I mean, it is data privacy is it has to be safeguarded. Like, I mean, all PII, PHI, like, has to be properly safeguarded. And from a technology standpoint, I think if there's a mechanism, like, for us to be able to mask some data, or maybe create synthetic data or mask some of those PII, like, for running your experimentation, I think that probably must be considered before, like, actually running algorithms on a true patient data. Okay, so safeguarding privacy is going to be important, and I think that's why I touched on earlier, like using we have to figure out a way to train our models on our ethically sourced data, right? Which is very important, making sure that we are not using patients' data if they have not consented previously.
To add on to that, I mean, if you probably know when you go to digital products, there's all sorts of disclaimers and consents, right? And so within our product, data privacy and consent from our users is huge now that we're incorporating AI. So we have a pop-up that has a consent that they have to attest to. And then we have disclaimers that tell them how we're going to utilize the data. So we take it very seriously in the digital space as well with developing products.
Well, I want to hand it back over to Arvind. Given we're 2 minutes from the hour, so thank you, Ty. Thank you, Pramod, for answering these questions and spending some time with us this morning. We appreciate it, and we look forward to following up.
Thank you. I would like to wrap up this session. Thank you, Tony, for moderating the panel discussion, and big thanks to all of our speakers for sharing your valuable insights for today. Before we conclude, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our community partners, speakers, and our attendees for enriching knowledge through this forum. And your presence and participation are really important in our webinars. So our panel speakers have shared insightful thoughts, and that have made the webinar a truly valuable experience. Today's webinar was broadcasted live in our LinkedIn page, and the recording will also be available for your reference shortly in our YouTube page. Please be sure to visit our website, aicospot.io, and follow us on social media channels for upcoming knowledge sharing sessions that will expand your horizon. And I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our knowledge and innovation partner, InfoVision, and technology partner, Digit7, for a significant contribution towards making this webinar a huge success. To learn more about InfoVision and their work and technological advancements, please visit their website, infovision.com. Once again, thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day and wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.